We need to go through some of the questions that we have with your statement. I don't want us to repeat what you've already indicated, but what we don't have, and I want us to be clear in my questions, is keep in mind that thank you. We've established from today and your last testimony that the deployments as they happened and as you signed them off, some of them were not, you didn't verify them. We've established that as a fact. We've also established, I think, as a fact that in terms of the capacity which you said and the report that was earlier provided, that the sites were not monitored properly. You accept that?
Correct, yes.
And we have to also accept we have to accept, then we have to get into the authority about deployments. And the last time the interest was around the deployments of January 2025. And that was closer, that had Mr. Piri. Everyone said Mr. Piri's evidence was that you instructed him to issue those notices of deployment where he signed them. Do you want us to go to them, or you remember those deployment letters?
Commissioner, I do not remember instructing Mr. Piri to deploy any ad hoc service, either in January or before.
Okay. So your evidence is that previously you've never instructed Mr. Piri or Inspector Piri to issue deployment letters?
Normally, without having to repeat what I've said, but in brief, deployment letters are issued in respect of services, ad hoc services that have taken note of the SOP directive that I alluded to earlier on. So any ad hoc service that was undertaken without alluding to the SOP as indicated earlier on would not have a deployment certificate signed by our office. But now, if it happened that he signed them, he did it out of his own, not with my instruction.
Okay. Would you also accept that at some point those may have gotten to your desk and you signed for them? You can't make that comment.
Come again?
I'm saying, do you know if you would have seen the deployments of January, that you've signed? Or invoices relating to those?
It could be, but unfortunately...
Yes. It could be.
I'm not having...
Okay, not as sufficient.
Okay.
That's fine. Then Mr. Piri came, or maybe before that, when did you become aware that Mr. Piri or Inspector Piri, I apologize, now Major, signed these deployment letters?
Which deployment letters are you referring to?
The 1 of January 2025.
I don't remember seeing such signed deployment letters. I do not remember.
Okay, that's fine. Could we then go to file 5? Page 52. This is an annexure. It's a trail of emails from Mr. Piri and yourself and Herman Sikholela from the Department of Water and Sanitation. The version that Mr. Piri gave before this commission was that this discussion via emails and later on in meetings, you gave him authority or delegation, using the term loosely, to issue deployment letters in respect of sites that the Department of Water and Sanitation required. What would be your comment to that version?
My comment is simple, straight to the point. By ordering Mr. Piri to convene a meeting or attend a meeting, I was not in any way giving him authority or delegating him responsibility, a duty to deploy any ad hoc services. So it happens very often, not only with ad hoc services. If you are held up somewhere and there is something important for discussion, you assign whoever to go and attend that meeting, but attending a meeting does not mean I've delegated a duty or responsibility for him to deploy the...
No, that's fair enough. And I'm not going to belabor the point, but your version is that you never delegated him. And
let me take you to the email just before that. And that email and a couple of others demonstrate, at least on my reading, that the overarching purpose of all these email exchanges was ultimately to have a deployment. That one is from Mr. Herman Sikholela. It's at the foot of page 52. It's addressed to, amongst others, you. And it says, do you see it?
I see it.
Yes. Good day. We have responded and forwarded all the information needed by Metro Police Department. We are still waiting for them to confirm deployment. That's what Water and Sanitation want. It's deployment. And then it says, today I just received the bad report that the Klapperkop water pump station has been badly vandalized during the festives. Mr. Malachi, kindly urgently confirm when you may be able to deploy. So this is about deployment, security, as the sites are vulnerable to further vandalism. And then there's the one about an urgent meeting that you just referred to. I will skip, and by skipping, that's going backwards, because as we discussed this earlier, the emails will start from the bottom up. I will take you to page 44. There again, it's an email from Mr. Sikholela. That's the person I referred to earlier this morning as an engineer. I think he is an engineer, but the important thing is that he's from Water and Sanitation. Again, he's writing to you, and he says, "Good day, Mr. Malachi. Attached, find the updated list of security deployment need." So it's on the basis of the repeated reference to deployment, that I'm saying what's overarching here is deployment. And then I will next take you to page 43. Now it's you writing, and you are writing to Kwapeng E at Gmail. Who's Kwapeng?
Senior Soup Madlanga, Colonel Madlanga.
Or Dr.
Madlanga, yes.
Dr. Madlanga. Okay. And you say, "Good evening. Kindly find request from Mr. Herman from the Department of Water and Sanitation for further handling." And then you say, "Please get Piri to run with the process and let's monitor progress." Bear in mind that throughout, the overarching purpose is deployment, deployment, deployment. So Mr. or Major Piri says this is what instructed him to deploy. In context, that does appear to make sense, or that does seem to make sense. Do you care to comment?
My comment is starting with me ordering Mr. Piri to attend the meeting.
Let's leave the meeting.
Okay.
You've discussed that with Mrs. Kakane. Let's leave that.
Okay. It is not true that by instructing them to run with the process, I was meaning that they should continue deploying security, because they themselves know very well that in order for deployment to be carried out, right, there must be a...
Are you going to refer to the SOP again?
Exactly, right.
And it starts with what? With the request from the relevant department?
Exactly, and
which there was here. There are repeated requests.
yes,
And Mr. Sikholela goes so far as to say there's continuing vandalism. So there is a request.
yes, Commissioner, I agree with you. There is a request, but that request, it runs short of critical information that is necessary for both of us to comply with the SOP that I alluded to earlier on. There shall be no deployment done unless the department requesting security has committed funds to service the deployment. Number two, the department...
As you sit there, are you able to say no funds had been committed as you sit there? Or are you making an assumption?
At this point in time, at the point when we were communicating,
As you sit there now, are you saying funds were not committed? Or are you making an assumption that they were not?
No, if my memory serves me well, there were no funds committed at that point in time.
Okay, continue.
So, apart from the issue of the funds, the SOP requires it of us to make sure that there is a critical element of the, for how long are we requesting this ad hoc services, right? So it was imperative for us through period Marihlaba, right, to have those things before a decision could be taken to deploy security. So if I go, having gone through this, right, I do not see anywhere where they came back to me with.
You couldn't sit and fold your arms and wait for them to come back to you, not when Mr. Herman Sekgolela had repeatedly asked for urgent deployment, and not for the sake of it. He says in so many ways that there is continuing vandalism and that the Klapperkop reservoir has recently been vandalized. You couldn't sit and fold your arms. So if you interpret the sentence that says, please get Piri to run with the process and let's monitor progress, if you interpret that sentence differently from Mr. Piri's interpretation, what became of that process and your monitor, what became of that? Because if you never did anything that saw that process to the end, we may well be forced to interpret this in the same manner as Major Piri does. Because from your answer, you seem to suggest that you just sat and waited for them to come back to you and tell you what happened eventually. If that's what you did, or at least if that's what you say you did, we may be inclined to interpret this email in the same way as Major Piri. Your comment? Or maybe let me ask this first. Did you do anything after this email? If you did, what did you do?
Commissioner, I did not sit. I've been engaging with Piri and Marihlaba about the budget issue, right? The budget issue, because the directive is very clear. Whether there is vandalism, that is...
Where's the record of that? Throughout we have emails, you yourself have been writing. If you'll suddenly say to us that I suddenly engaged orally, that will be very odd in the context of what was happening here. Emails were being exchanged. Where's an exchange, an email exchange that shows that beyond this point you did engage?
Commissioner, can I say this, if it is allowed?
Yes.
All right. I did not buy, I did not instruct or delegate.
That's not what I'm asking you. That's not what I'm asking you. I said, you have said Piri must run with the process and let's monitor progress. So I want to see the progress. I don't want you to answer whether you in fact gave an instruction. That's not what that's not where I am right now. I want to see what you did beyond this email. What did you do, if anything at all? And if you say it was oral, that will be hard to believe, because throughout and up to this point, you were all engaging each other by way of email. What did you do beyond this point, if anything at all?
From record perspective, it is clear that there were no further communications. But the absence of that does not necessarily mean I gave either Piri or Marihlaba.
Again, I'm not asking you whether you gave an instruction or not. I'm saying, or I'm asking, did you do anything at all beyond this email of the 9th of January 2025 at 8:49 p.m.? Did you do anything at all? No, I'm looking at a wrong one. I'm looking at, the date is still the same, the 9th of January 2025 at 20:45. Your email to Wapeng E. That's the email in which you say, please get Piri to run with the process and let's monitor. So I'm saying beyond that email, did you do anything at all? If you did, what did you do?
Commissioner, it is on record now, right? There is no email indicating what was done, but...
I'm not asking about whether there is an email. What, if anything at all, did you do, Director?
Commissioner, I'm struggling to get the right word, right? I've issued an instruction. They must run with the process. Running with the process, meaning to do due diligence. They did not come back to me, right? Yes. The commissioner is saying, what did you do?
Yes, I want to know what you did. Because you cannot say, once I gave the instruction that Piri must run with the process, then you waited and did nothing at all. You yourself actually say in this, you must monitor progress. So you yourself undertook to monitor progress. So what, if anything at all, did you do after you had written this email? I'm asking this question for the umpteenth time now.
Commissioner, I know from where I am sitting and where the commissioner is sitting, what will convince the commissioner is something in black and white, because...
It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be in black and white. But of course, I will say, if you suddenly say it was oral when everything else was through emails, we may be inclined we may be inclined to find it hard to believe. But I'm not confining you to emails. What, if anything at all, did you do after this email?
Allow me, Commissioner, to put it on record again, right? I've issued my subordinates with...
You're supporting what?
I issued my subordinates.
Subordinate?
Yes, with an instruction, right? They had a duty, let alone me having to prove. They had a duty to come back to me and say, this is how far we've gone, so that I could evaluate, right, whatever they say they have done.
That cannot be enough. That cannot be enough. You have also undertaken to monitor progress. So if they do not come back to you, you too have a duty to monitor. So that means you going back to them and asking them what's going on with the instruction I gave. So it's not enough for you to basically you are saying, in the face of vandalism that was taking place, in the face of several requests by Mr. Herman Seholela, you just sat and folded your arms and waited for people who were not coming back to you to come back to you.
I do not agree, Commissioner.
Yes.
I don't agree.
Yes.
The reason why I am not agreeing...
What exactly do you not agree with?
I'm not agreeing with the fact that I just sat, folded arms, and waited my subordinates to respond. I'm saying
that because you said they had an obligation or a duty to do the things that you are referring to, and to then come back to you, and they never did. My understanding of that is that you are basically saying because they never came back to you, you too did not do anything.
I think I will not be able to satisfy the commissioner on this one in terms of my response, but the long and short of my response with regard to deployment, right? I've never instructed both to continue with deployment of security.
Thank you. I'll close by saying again, that's not my question, but I will leave it there.
Director Malachi, your evidence before this commission concerns me. You'll see that on page 52, where Chair referred you to, it was concern about vandalism at Klaperkop water station, and the other one, there were two. And that was on the 6th of January. If you look at that email on page 52. The following day, on page 60, you give an instruction, Tuesday, January 7, 2025 at 11:38. You give an instruction that the service provider will resume deployment of security guards today, 7 January 2025 at 1800 hours, at the very stations that the chair was engaging you on. So you gave an instruction that the deployment will happen from that day. So for you to come to this commission and say, I never gave an instruction to deploy because my subordinates had to do due diligence first, that is untruthful. Because that is your email where you say deployment will happen today at 1800 hours. Do you see that? We are on page 60, Director Malachi.
I am on page 60.
And do you see that in your email you said deployment to these three sites, to these two sites, was to commence at 1800 hours on that day?
Yes, it is my...
So you did authorize those deployments, and when Mr. Piri issued letters in respect of these two sites, it was because you had authorized these deployments.
Now they, Commissioner, they, I admit I issued instruction, and if you look at the subject on my email, right, it talks to GL account for security services, Klaperkop, Brickfields pump stations, as listed here below, right? Without even, if you go to page 61, Herman Seholela, right? GL account for security services, right? He indicates, hi Gary, so I agree with your suggestion to utilize job in GL. It is the one relevant for this purpose. Colleagues, the GL and cost center for the security are as follows. In as far as deployment of Klaperkop and Brickfield substations, they are concerned, there are three. The department here has complied fully with the SOP that I alluded to earlier on. Hence, my instruction, right, said the deployment will commence, right, at 18 hours. So, as a commissioner.
But Mr. Malachi, on page 52, Chair was engaging you on the same Klaperkop water pump station. And when Chair was engaging you, you said you never gave instruction for deployment.
No.
Mr. Malachi, go to page 52 and see what 52 deals with.
I am on page 52.
Do you see that it deals with Klaperkop? Today, I've just received a bad report that Klaperkop water station has been badly vandalized during the festivities. That's what the chairperson was engaging you on. It continues on 53. Mr. Malachi, kindly confirm when we may be able to deploy security as the sites are vulnerable to further vandalism. That's the very email Chair was engaging you on. And when he asked you, in the face of this and in the face of the request for deployment, what did you do? You said, I never gave an instruction to deploy because, one, there should have been due diligence. Two, there should have been a determination of the duration of the deployment. Yet, on page 60, before those things are done, there's no due diligence, there's no determination of how long the deployment is going to be. You authorized the deployment. And arising from this email, Mr. Phiri issued letters of deployment to these sites. So for you to sit there and say, I did not authorize this, I was still waiting for my team to do a deployment and to assess how long the deployment is going to be. Sorry, the due diligence and how long the deployment is going to be. It's simply false.
I think my response was I responded not being aware of the email on page 60, right? So
your evidence changes when you see documents. It's not the truth. You will change it as and when you see documents or as and when you become aware of documents.
not necessarily, Commissioner. I think the Commission must take note of the fact that we are dealing with quite a number of issues here, right? Sometimes it might happen that when I'm exposed to what actually has happened, right, that would touch on what you call on the evidence that I'm doing. But in this instance, right, I'm exposed to the evidence. Yes, due diligence to a very large extent was done. Confirmation has been made by the department. Hence, I issued an instruction, right, to say deploy on Klapperkop, deploy on Brickfield substation, as per the scope of work that I've done.
Let me tell you what then happened after this, after you instructed that there be a deployment. The same water and sanitation went to Phiri because you said Phiri must run with the process. If you go to page 50 of the same bundle, and the email to which that attachment relates is on page 44. And you were copied on this. It's 9 January 2025.
Yes.
It says, good day, Mr. Malachi. Attached find the updated list of security deployment needs. So they were saying in addition to the two, there are these additional sites. Where you find those additional sites is on page 50.
Okay.
And letters were then issued because you had already authorized deployment on the basis that there was vandalism. Letters were then issued that there should be security on these sites as well. That's what happened. And you were copied, so you can't say, I did not know, I was not aware, because these emails are all sent to you. You can see that the email on page 44 is sent to you.
I hear you, Commissioner.
Yes. Now I want to ask you about the January invoices, because we know that these sites, the additional sites, were added. In February, when Gubis invoiced for the ad hoc services in January, did you sign those invoices? Because the January invoices would have been issued sometime in February, either in the middle part on the 10th or later in February. But we do know that at the end of January, Gubis would have been entitled to invoice. Did you sign and authorize those invoices in February?
I wouldn't say yes or no unless.
No, Mr. Malachi.
Commissioner, can I please be given
Please explain, yes.
opportunity to explain? I wouldn't say yes or no, unless, without having to say this is how the Commission should direct questions to me, right? Unless I'm exposed to those emails that I've signed, and questions are based on something that I am seeing, right? Probing me on something that I am seeing, but now, just for the Commission to expect me to some thug responses, I don't think it is fair. That is why, as we move on, I would always be accused of, not answering properly. But the bottom line is, I should be exposed to the evidence. And yes, as we move on, right, you allow me an opportunity to explain where it is necessary to explain. But under the circumstances, I feel like I'm being ambushed. See? So, which...
Are you saying, Director, you may have, but you do not recall? Is that the long and short of what you are saying?
Exactly, Commissioner.
There's a reason why I'm asking you this question, Director Malachi. You see, you told this commission that you were not aware of these ad hoc appointments until much later. Now, what I'm asking you is a factual issue. Either you approved invoices or you did not. Because if you approved the invoices for January, there's no way you can sit there and say, you don't know what those invoices are for. Because the invoices will tell you it's for this deployment at this site for January 2025. And that's your job, as we have shown you with the June 2024 invoice. It came to you, you stamped it, you signed it. Had we not confronted you with that invoice, you would also have denied and said, I don't know. I never became aware of these ad hoc deployments. I did not authorize anybody to deploy. But if you sign those invoices, then your suggestion that you were not aware of these deployments is simply false. And because it's your job, you should be able to answer that question. You should be able to say, yes, because no invoice can be paid without my involvement. They would have had to come to me. I would have stamped them and signed them. And that's how they would have gotten paid. You are not being ambushed. You came here to deal with the Gubis deployments and the payments to Gubis. That's why the emails that are attached here, and they show that over 5 months it was paid 82 million. They relate exactly to the topic we are discussing. It's not something outside of the topic that we are discussing. If you know, you can say, I know. If you don't know, I don't know, or I don't remember.
Commissioner, I hear you and I agree with you, right? The thing is, the difficulty I sometimes come across, right? You say, I do not remember. It is said, no, it means you are not doing what you are supposed to do, right? It's an assumption. But the long and short of this whole thing is, right, I'm coming to the additional lists, page 50, right? Allow me to put it on record, Commissioner, that Mr. Soholela has taken advantage of my email dated the 7th of January. He knows very well, he should know very well, that for each site there must be GL account number, right, provided. So, having received my approval as per this email, all right, he decided to put additional sites. But I'm stating it that it was wrong of him to do that. You see, he was supposed to do as he did with Klaperkop and others, right? Avail GL account number, budget, from which this additional site would be serviced.
The email on page 44 that attaches an updated list of security deployments is sent to you. If you held the view that they must get GL accounts and other things, then you would have responded to them and said there won't be any further deployments until you have followed the process that you followed as set out on page 60. So now you're acting as if they did all this behind your back. They added the additional sites behind your back. But the email on page 44 is addressed to you. So if you thought a different process had to be followed, you could have responded to that email and said, this is not the correct process, follow a different process. Instead, what you do 10 minutes later, 20 minutes later, which is the email chair took you to on page 43, you said, colleagues, note the request for further handling. Please get Piri to run with the process and let's monitor the progress. You did not say, no, unless there's a GL number, we should do nothing about those sites. Unless there's budget, we should do nothing about those sites. Instead, you said, please note the updated list for further handling. Piri will run with it and monitor the progress. That's what you said. You see that you responded, it's 10 minutes later. 2034 is on page 44, 9 January. Page 43, 2045, you note the request and you say Piri must run with it.
Wait.
So that's the sequence. Do you see that?
Please get it. Find that.
Director Malachi, do you, maybe to try and shorten this, do you accept that at page 43, that's an instruction to Piri to action the request from water and sanitation, where you say, Piri to run with the process and let's monitor progress. Do you accept that you're instructing him to action the request from water and sanitation?
I agree.
Okay, thank you.